and then I shut up because it's a thing now. Oh, there we go.
Hello, and welcome back to Command Protocol Podcast. I am once again Matt, and this is my co-host Andy.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking about lots of things. We're going to be talking about LVO, the ITC season, ITT prep, which is a team tournament coming up next week, and some bits in between. How have you been, Andy?
I've been well. Mostly working and despite really getting over a cold. So
Nice.
we're also going to be talking about the little bounce patch that we've had.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. I tried to ignore it, but it's still there.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll jump right in and we'll pull up the first tournament. And look at this. I've figured out the technology as well. So
Nice.
we can have our faces at the bottom.
Yay for faces.
So the first list we're going to be talking about, I believe, is Lewis L. I'm going to butcher every single one of these names.
Good.
Lewis L. Humilde. I'm so sorry. But I can't pronounce any of that, and I'm terrible. So here we are. So what's in the list, Andy?
No, you put me on the spot, damn you.
I
right.
am.
So, 1 Catan, Nightbringer, obviously the best one. Silent King, 3 Doomsday Arcs, Scorpet Destroyers. So kind of pretty standard. No Scorpet Lords to hold the enhancements, but there's only 1 anyway, so it's gone with a Hexmark, which I know you like.
I do.
And a Spider, and about average as you get really in a list. But what I find interesting is that in the same event, someone else took Starshatter and came 4th, but the lists are pretty different apart from the Silent King and 3 Doomsday Arcs also being there. So I don't know if you want to get that list up as well.
One. I will.
There
we go. He's running a Command Barge instead and the Silent King. He's got a Plasmancer, which we rated horribly, but we still don't rate it in this one, I don't think, because it's slightly cheaper than the Emetic Blob, but slower, less durable. Just not a fan.
What?
This is the... Oh, no. I've gone to the wrong one.
You're on the wrong one. That's...
next one. That's the next one. I clicked the wrong tab.
Christ.
Sorry, this is the Cappy guy.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes, there we go. Okay, we're on the right list now.
There
Locust Destroyer, Scorpeth Lord, Technomancer, Silent King. There we go. Wraiths, Triple DDA. Yes, same.
So he's gone with the Amnitics, which are probably, in my opinion, now the best unit for this detachment. Better than a Doomsday. They're more important to me than a Doomsday Arc at this point, especially with the way the meta is, because they are so good at clearing away Guardsmen, Gene Stealer Cult, Orcs. You keep them well protected, and they will just delete your opponent's army. So he's got that.
For that. Right.
And he's gone with the Wraith Blood, but he's got no Reanimator, and he's got no Crypto Thralls. So it's kind of like half of the package that we were talking about last week, where you kind of want all or nothing when it comes to that squad because of the points investment that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of want it all together because it just doesn't do enough. I feel it dies too quick if you don't have everything.
Yeah, especially if you've got, and he doesn't have the Command Barge for an extra reserve as well, and the extra OC, which means you have to put less out. So, but again, like same tournament, they both went the same record, but the lists are very different, and it just kind of shows that we don't have a clue yet what the best Starshatter list is. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any general consensus. Like we can't even agree. Can't even agree on the same units. Like this one's got Ophidians, the other one doesn't, and we hate Ophidians, but people are still winning them. Okay, so next list is the one you were trying to look at before, Lock and Load.
Yes, it's Lock and Load, and I believe did he win this one?
He did, yes. So we can't be too mean.
Yeah, I was slagging it off, but I
Oh,
think the
that's okay.
Plasmancer
It's bad.
Immortal squad isn't good. I just
No,
don't. I don't know what terrain they're running, but I'm just not. He's gone very greedy.
it's a very
Who
greedy
he's
list.
listing.
It's got the 2 rerolls from the Command Barge and the King, but it's also got the Nightbringer and 3 Doomsday Arcs. So that's a lot of points, and it doesn't leave much for scoring secondaries. So unless he, if he keeps getting all the action secondaries, he may struggle.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Once you start losing some of that stuff, and it looks like it, because he's got no fallback stuff. If he gets tagged, he's in a bit of trouble. Really, I don't think
Yeah.
the Nightbringer is good enough to protect everything at once.
No, and the Nightbringer and the Silent King are only the real melee threats. Obviously, the flayed ones are there, but they don't really threaten anything major. They at the start, and they kill things when they get wounded, but most things kill things when they're wounded. But yeah,
Well,
the
well
choice
done
of
to him for winning.
yeah
Anyway,
the choice of the Plasmancer and Immortals without an Overlord for some of the free strats, and without Seras to beef the AP is interesting. It is slightly cheaper than the Omnitics with the Locust Lord, but it's just worse, right? Like, you don't have the hit rerolls to get for lethals to fight up against the tougher targets. And yes, you've got wound rerolls on objectives, but you've also got less shots compared with the Tesla. And
I agree.
I will try it on the tabletop and see how it goes before I dismiss it
Yeah,
completely.
definitely a greedy list.
Yeah, and they are the only real target for the Command Barge Resorb as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really going to use that on the Toonblade squad because there's only 6 wounds in the squad anyway. So if you've got one alive, then on average you're going to have 2 alive by the end of the reanimation. So
yeah. All right, well, we'll jump to the next tournament then.
Yeah. Which
all right, so this was the Dutch Masters final finale.
Yes, and
We've got 8th and 9th.
Yes, but we actually have a hypercrypt list to look at. So
we'll
look at the
quickly,
starshatter, which was the 9th one.
Yeah, and then we'll quickly run through that. So I'll have a little run.
We had a bit of a debate about this, didn't we, beforehand?
Yes, yeah. So he's running the Overlord of the Translocation Shroud, and I personally like it. Maybe not so much. I like it over the other one, the -1 damage one, because I like getting the Lich Guards, which are in the list, to where they need to be early on, because they can be quite slow. But he's running Wraiths again with just the Technomancer and the Wraiths, but no support. And if you're running we were discussing earlier that we feel like if you're running Wraiths and Lich Guard, that you kind of want the Reanimator or the Barge or both to protect, to increase their value a lot more.
Yeah, having the ability to watch most of the squad die, but then get most of the squad back so they have to do it again, gives you a lot more kind of... The opponent doesn't want to do it because they can see what's going to happen. As soon as you go, I've got a Resob on this guy, and I've got a Reanimator there, so I'm reanimating D6 plus D3 plus 2D3 on my turn, plus I've got the Strat and a Technomancer for healing. And that's like 6 or 7 D3 plus D6. And they're like, well, there's no point. But if they don't see that, then they're just like, okay, well, cool, we'll just shoot it and you're getting D3 back and it's not too much of a worry. But like the Overlord for me should be the other one because the terrain's usually dense enough to get from place to place, but he's carrying the aura, which means once the squad dies, I still want my Overlord alive, at least to give buffs to other things, so he actually got a point, and being a lot more tanky with the -1 damage and a lot better in offense with the strength 12 attack means that he's a little bit more has a bit more longevity and can actually kill some Terminators and stuff as well.
I think it's just personal preference. I'm just the mobility and the use of him. And then the next list is the Hyper.
Well, hang on, sorry, we're still looking at this one. He's got 3 Amnitics without the Lord.
Does he? I didn't even notice that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's got plenty of destroyers to back up. So this is a lot less shooting. There's only 2 Doomsday Arcs and the Silent King, and then there's a lot more kind of melee, kind of stand on and counter attack with the Scorpex. But yeah, the Amnitics without the Lord are they're still good, but they're not as good as, like, point per damage. The Lord it just increases it a lot with the ignores cover.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sorry,
He's
I'm done.
and he's just got like the normal Ophidian Scorpeth's Stalker kind of stuff, but the Stalker obviously is to make that the three the three Locust actually do something and shoot in.
Yeah, I mean, it's 110 points to ignore cover on a unit that you either have to run alongside your other unit, and for the cheaper, you can get the Lord with the Resorb, the crit 5s, and ignores cover as well. And it gives you, and to be honest with you, the Lord's melee is probably comparable to the Triarch Stalkers because he's got better AP and he hits better. Maybe it's even better than the Triarch Stalker, even though he's 3 damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just the tankiness of the Stalker, perhaps. That
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
Okay, and
But
then
he doesn't overload the Lord, of course. That's another.
And then the Hypercrypt list over here. So let's scroll to the top.
Didn't like massively, did we?
Yeah, not a huge fan of the model choice. I mean, he did well with it to go 4-1.
Yeah.
And we've not seen many Hypercrypts since Starshatter, but I've personally started playing more Hypercrypt now again because it's what I've preferred anyway. So I'll just quickly run through the list. He's got Chronomancer with the extra pull, Deceived Nightbringer, Overlord with a Risen Tyrant, which we weren't a fan of. We'll talk about that in a minute. Plasmancer with Deep Strike, and that goes in 10 Immortals, and then the Chronomancer goes in 5, we assume.
Yeah.
Silent King for the rerolls and teleporty stuff. 5 Deathmatch, 1 Doomsday Arc.
Yeah.
2 Flayed Ones.
And
1 Destroyer and Praetorians. Where is the stuff?
So when we were looking at this list to start with, I was thinking, okay, so 2 Immortal units. I know Overlord. There's definitely going to be a Monolith there at the bottom. And there wasn't a Monolith at the bottom. And yeah, why would you want an Overlord when there's no Monolith to reduce those? Like, what strats are you using for free with the Overlord in this detachment?
Yeah, we were trying to work it out, and he can resin reserves for free.
D3.
Or nice. He can which is not very good. Or he can 6-inch Deep Strike for free. But why have you got Deep Strike on the Plasmancer if you're going to be doing that? Because you don't need it.
So unless the Overlord goes with the Chronomancer in a 5 blob, and he does that, and then he can move after he comes down, which is
got a Risen Tyrant.
But then they would go with the big sled, surely, because that's where the rerolls come from.
Yeah.
So
it seems confusing that you would choose that.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's the right Overlord, one with the -1 damage, as opposed to the Translocation.
They have Assault, so auto 6-in is better because it's guaranteed.
But your Hypercrypt, the other Immortals are Gauss, the 5 Immortals are Gauss, which we assume are running with the Chronomancer. So that's a weird choice too, because if you're going to leave them on foot in turns where you don't pick them up, you can get a lot further if they've got the Tesla. And the AP on the Gauss doesn't really matter at this point because most things have cover anyway. And then, when it comes to shooting, he's got a Doomsday Arc, an Immortal Squad, and the Silent King.
How does that win games?
I mean, I do like the Praetorians because they have got Deep Strike. They can come up and down turn 1 and do stuff. It's something that I've been toying with a lot, but they're expensive still for what they do. And I feel like if you're going to run them, then the rest of the army has to pull its weight a bit more, but I don't see how this does, really. I mean, 2 Kitans is always nice. You stick the Deceiver on a flank objective and go, well, that's where he's going to sit for the whole game. And it's hard to shift, but the mobility is like there's not a lot of threat. Someone can bring Magnus out and go, well, you've got a Silent King and a Doomsday Arc to shoot at me, and that's it. Like the Tesla Immortals are going to do nothing against my 2-up save.
Yeah, I agree. It just doesn't seem like it does much. If you play into vehicle heavy meta like you do in the UK, I just can't see this working. But it's good that he did so well. He must have played well, or know something that perhaps we don't. But looking at it face value, it just doesn't look like a lot of stuff to me. One DDA is just wildly inefficient. It just doesn't.
Yes.
They really struggle to do efficient damage. I mean, unless that guy's got a dice that only has 6s on it, you roll one on one DDA.
I could do with some of those dice, maybe.
Yeah.
The problem with bringing a small amount of anti-tank is it doesn't threaten. Like one Doomsday Arc, we both know from experience, either does everything or nothing, and you can't rely on it to do everything. So that's why you want 2 or 3, because the first one does nothing and the second one does everything, and you're like, okay, sweet. But if you're in an arms race against 3 Vindicators and you put a Doomsday Arc at one, you can just do nothing to it, and then I've spent 190 points doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. So next we've got the Hamburg Major, which was actually Necrons won it. I think it was one of the few undefeated runs we had of the weekend.
Yes, we had 2 event wins, and they were both starshatter.
And this is WTC scoring, so we imagine it's WTC terrain as well.
Yeah.
And he's gotten some good wins, like 20-0, 19-1, 18-2, 16-4. And his strength of schedule is really good as well, actually, looking at it. He must have beaten some really good players. So let's have a little look at his list.
And just to say, there is another list that came forth in this tournament that's also starshatter and is wildly different too.
Yes, so, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they only drew their last game, so they went undefeated too. So what's in this list, Andy?
So 2 hex marks, 1 with the minus damage. Imhotep, a Locust Lord with a fallback, which we'll see later comes with 6 normal destroyers. And the Silent King, just 1 Doomsday Arc again, and then some destroyers at the bottom, mostly Amnitics, and 2 Triarch Stalkers, and 2 Tomb Blades too. So another list popping some of those. It's so obviously
a lot of stalker heavy meta going on at the moment.
The 6 Locusts probably go out early with the -1 damage, and maybe the Reanimator close by and try and do something, but again, without the full rerolls and strength 5, they don't punch up much, and I'm always disappointed by them. But they are quite tanky with the -1 damage if you're not shot by a Doomsday Arc, for example. Imhotep, so he's probably just holding his backfield with that and cycling cards.
And he's just by himself, isn't he?
Using the Tomb Blades and I'm guessing the Stalkers to do his secondaries. A couple of hex marks running around as well. Can be quite good, but
I think it's just a decent. It's a bit different from what we usually do. We have like multiple DDAs, but these last 2 lists have only had 1.
Yeah, just not a lot of punch. Like if you get in a firefight, you're not fighting your way out of it with guns. You're gonna have
to. It's a very strange list.
But he won, and he's a master.
Yeah.
It was a major, right? How many people?
Yeah. I'm not 100% certain as I have closed the tab, but
okay. Well, I'll have a look because I have it open.
Yes, he's done really well.
80 players, so
8, like he's done really good, honestly. Maybe I've tried with 2 DDAs, and that still just feels like just enough. But I don't know if it's because of the meta or maybe the boards are a bit heavier.
Sorry,
so we just found
120 players.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, even better. There was 2 5-0s, and the other one was Dark Angels. So obviously, he didn't score as many points.
Yeah, so it's just maybe the boards are less shooty. Can't really get as many angles.
Yeah,
like could be heavier boards because even some of a lot of tournaments when they play WTC will just play 5 medium boards, but even some of the medium ones are either heavier or lighter. So maybe they just weren't the best for him, and he's just really good at scoring points, deny primary, score points.
Yeah,
that's literally all he needs to do.
The Stalkers can be quite annoying because they are tanky enough that you need to point multiple units at them to shoot them off the board, but then if you position them well, you can use the reactive move, or you could easily use the reactive move to get out of the way. Obviously, that's changing, and we'll go through that later. But,
So, well done to him. Then we've got another one for the same tournament.
Yeah, came fourth, which was that undefeated as well, I think?
Yes, because he drew his last game.
He drew his last game, but looking at the points, probably wouldn't have won, even if he'd maxed it. But
he's done really well. He's got
this one's wild.
with the rerolls.
This one is a wild list.
Yeah, it's a lot different. And if he didn't look at our tier list, that's for sure.
No.
Because he has just gone against everything we suggested.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show that there are a lot of different ways that you can build it that are outside of the go-tos, as we've thought. So there's a command barge with the rerolls. Zeraz, who we said didn't really benefit from this detachment, but he's chosen them as good. It's just a good data sheet. Imhotep, 2 Plasmancers, one with the ignores cover, one with the -1 damage.
Yeah.
5 Immortals of Tesla, 10 Immortals of Tesla, Reanimator,
3
triple DDA.
Yeah.
Flayed one, 2 single destroyers, Ophidian, Scorpus, Triarch, Stalker.
Yeah. So the bottom half of the list kind of looks pretty normal with the Scorpex, a squad of Ophidian, a Stalker, a few solo destroyers, and 3 Doomsdays. Like that's normal. But then we're back on Immortals again. So you assume that Zeraz is going with the 10 Immortals with the ignores cover. At this point, though, if you're going for that, you got AP1 ignores cover. Why not run the Gauss? So you.
Do you mean Imhotep when you said that? You said Zeraz. Zeraz walks with them.
Yeah, it's next to him. Obviously not in the same squad. Because he'll be giving them the AP for that ignores cover. And I guess if you're shooting things with like 4 up, 5 up save, then all right, no AP ignores cover is okay. But I mean, if I'm wanting ignores cover, I'm wanting as much AP as I can get, basically. And then the other Plasmancer, I mean, it's going with 5 Immortals, but it probably also runs with Imhotep because he wants to be running up the field with the command barge and the Doomsday Arcs for shooting. Like, I quite like Imhotep actually being involved in the fight because his once per battle ability can be really strong if he gets in the right position. You can get a serious amount of mortal wounds on the enemy at that point. And if he's just hiding at the back for 100 points, it just feels like you're paying a lot of points for an ability that you never actually end up using.
Yeah, I like pushing him up, and he's got the Ophidians to hold his backfield as well, so they don't have to sit back.
No, and he's also got some heavy destroyers, which in certain matchups will also hold his backfield. But like, there's no king here, so he's gone for the choice of just having the barge with the rerolls. I think we've seen these last few lists that when they've played the barge, they've also had the king, which is kind of greedy, but it can also work. But not having a king gives you a lot more. You can get a lot for 420 points. But he's
got like higher OC Immortals as well, I guess, to go with the barge and the orb as well to use on them. So it's the same kind of idea.
See, I'm starting to think that maybe 2 command barges is the way forwards.
Yeah.
One with the rerolls, obviously, and then the second one, because it already has -1 to wound inbuilt. It has a res orb, so if you're playing Wraiths, if you're playing Lich Guard, if you're playing the Amnitic Destroyers, then you've got 3 good targets for another res orb. And you stick the -1 damage on it, it goes out with -1 to wound early on as well. So it could be like a slightly more expensive version of the Stalker, but it has probably better melee and, the shooting shit. But,
Yeah, he's only got 9 wounds, though, right?
Yes. He only has 9 wounds, I guess. It's, in Awakened Dynasty, when you put the 4 up, feel no pain on him, then he is a bit more tanky. But it's having 2 could be something to think about because her extra OC as well is always good because we can struggle to hold objectives sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. well done to him. And we'll go on to our final tournament, I believe.
Yeah, which obviously
which
is the big one.
The big one. The big one.
LVO, which, let's be honest, Necrons did not do particularly well.
No, we really didn't. We are. So if I just go back to the front, our highest placement was 28, and obviously 28 is still really good out of 1,000 people.
Yeah,
but a lot of the tables are, we only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 or 10 people that only lost one game. A lot of mid-table menaces.
Given the hype behind starshatter beforehand, and the popularity of Necrons, and how well consistently we've been in the top 5 or 6 armies results-wise for a few months, you'd have thought there would have been somebody who would have had a slightly hotter run. Like, we're going to look at 2 lists of people that went 5-0, but ultimately lost their last game. So obviously, if one of them had won, then maybe we'll have a 6-0 and somebody at the top trying to fight for the win. But maybe, we're a good kind of mid placing detachment. But when you get to the top, it gets a little more tricky because people can play around your tricks a lot better.
Yeah, and they design lists to beat yours because we're a popular faction.
Yeah, and especially now that there's been some nerfs, which we'll cover in a bit. I can't see, that this is going to change much. We'll still get some event wins, obviously, like we've seen, but I think people will also start to migrate away from it.
So we'll have a look at Stephen Ross's list first. Stephen finished 77th, but he was one of the people that went 5-0 until losing in the last round. And you always get punished by having 5 hard games, and then on your 6th game you score low.
Yeah, because obviously that'll be, well, you'd assume the harder game is at 5-0 in the 6th round, then somebody at 4-1 maybe, but.
So he's got Scorpeth Lord with a -1 damage, which is what we were running at Nottingham.
Yeah.
Technomancer, Silent Kings are low on characters, just like we prefer.
Yeah.
Reanimator, Scarabs, just to walk around with a Technomancer, I imagine, or screen backfield, something like that.
Yeah.
Spider, though, he's running Spider to protect the Silent King and the Doomsday Arcs.
Yeah.
Wraiths, Thralls, he's got the full package,
which
is good to see. 3 DDAs, 3 single heavy, normal destroyers, sorry. 1 single heavy and 2 Scorpeths.
So I quite like this list.
Yeah, it's a pretty common one that a lot of people have been running, but he's got the Silent King and the Wraiths, which is obviously a bit more of an expensive one that we didn't do, but they are really good at holding primary.
Yeah, I've played one game recently with them, and they overperformed in terms of how much damage they sponged off the opponent and kept my other things alive. So it's a good package. It certainly is. We might have to revisit our tier list and maybe bump them up a notch. But the one thing I don't like about this is the Scarabs. They don't do anything for me in this list.
But I imagine he's looked at his points and he's got 6. Yeah, he's got 40 points left, and he's already maxed out on single locusts.
Yeah, but what you could do is, like, I love the Spider, but I could easily see this being dropped for a squad of flayed ones, which would then give you an extra 55 points, which could either be, which could be another Locust Heavy with Gauss.
Yeah.
So you're keeping 2 units. The Locust Heavy with the Gauss is, as we run through before, something that has to be respected with that flat 6, but it's also cheap enough to do actions and throw away. And then the flayed ones also give you a bit of early game pressure in the midboard because he doesn't have anything that scouts. Like, there's no Tomb Blades and there's no Stalker, which we see quite a lot of as well. And
yeah, I'm really surprised by the no flayed ones.
The Spider will help him a lot against Grey Knights, against Thousand Suns, maybe against some builds of Tyranids. And the 6 of Feel No Pain is good, but I've been running the Silent King a lot without it, and he hasn't really needed it against most of the lists that I've played, or it wouldn't have made enough difference when he has died. That I can see it being dropped in this detachment, because he also runs 5 inches, which is a bit too slow as well for me.
Yeah, I just consider him very lucky that he didn't play against World Eaters or any melee threat.
I mean, the race will be nice against the melee threats, and obviously you've got the Doomsday Arcs with decent movement. Because, like World Eaters, ignoring Angron, you stick -1 damage on a Doomsday Arc, they will tank a lot of Exalted 8-bound attacks with their -1 damage and a 4 pinball. 8-bound do not like that combination. So as long as he keeps that away from Angron, who would just tear through it, then there's good game here, because you've still got the Scorpex to counter attack, and 3 Scorpex against 3 Exalted or 3 normal 8-bound, they can probably chew through them.
I feel the problem is that you can't stop them connecting, and once those Exalted 8-bound hit and you fail to fall back, you just lose the game pretty much.
So this is where it comes down to positioning, I think. So you have to sacrifice a Doomsday Arc with the -1 damage and be like, look, this is going to block off one flank. If you want to charge, this is what you're charging. And you're going to charge with everything. And then if you kill it, great, I'm just going to shoot everything at you and kill you. And if you don't, then my Scorpion is going to come from the side, and I'm going to finish off 2 squads at least, and the big gun will point somewhere else. And then you use like the single locusts to just, and the scarabs, I guess in this case, to just zone out another side and buy you that time so you can get at least a round or 2 of shooting.
Okay, so we'll jump to the next list.
Yeah.
So this one was Killian Minton,
who was also undefeated going into the last round.
Yes, he went 38th in total.
And as you can see, as you will see, it's a completely different list type than the one we've just seen, even though they were both 5-0. So this one has still got the Silent King, but now 2 Hexmark Destroyers, an Annihilation Barge, which we haven't seen in any list yet, really. The classic 3 Doomsdays, but this one does have 2 Flayed ones. It also has some Omnitics, Ophidians, and more Scorpet Destroyers, but it also has Tomb Blades and Triarch Stalkers, so there's a bit more like early game battlefield control, because there's 4 units that will be in the midboard potentially turn 1 at the start of the game.
Yeah, he's gone for a lot more of a tankier approach, like we sometimes would see with the old Awakened, with like lots of vehicle spam. A lot more than you would probably normally see. I mean, he's not really got much in the way of primary holding, but he does have a lot of like melee trading units and stuff like that.
See, I think you have to hold the primary with the Doomsday Arcs, and then have the Flayed ones and the Scorpex behind them. And you go, okay, if you're going to shoot me, then I'll move after the second activation and keep my Doomsday Arc alive. And if you're going to melee me, then I'm going to have some Flayed ones and some Scorpet Destroyers coming in behind. And I'm just going to use, the rest of the army to score and be annoying. But, I mean, 5-0, unlucky to lose the last round.
Yeah, and he, I don't know how close it was in the last round, but he scored 64, so it looked like it was still not a clean sweep.
Nope.
And then we'll just run on to the last list.
Which is the highest placing list.
Yes, and this was by Jacob Wagner.
Yeah, you pronounced his name right. Well done.
Let's go.
Yeah, so this one's also 2 Hexmark Silent King, but it also includes Immotech. For the
by himself.
By himself, yep. No Lutch card here. Only so at the bottom you'll see the classic 2 Doomsday Arcs. Then there's also 3 Triarch Stalkers as well.
You must like them.
And 1 set of Flayed ones. So 5 units in the midboard, potentially turn 1. And the Triarch Stalkers, they are so annoying to shift. But like damage wise, he's got 4 shooting activations with the Silent King and the 3 Doomsdays. But then there isn't a great deal of melee threat. Like the Stalkers, 4 attacks at 7-1-3, they never do anything, do they? Like they'll never kill a Terminator because you just go, I'll armor contempt and I've got 2 up saves. Like They never kill a Terminator.
They're just annoying. They're not threatening.
No. So this looks like an army that's going to kind of be obstinate and annoying to kill, but isn't going to go out there with the intention of taking you off the board and scoring at the end, which is what some of the lists we've seen probably try to do.
Yeah, so it's just like he did well though for going.
Yeah, again,
he got a really high score in his actual loss as well as 81. So
yeah,
he's done really well.
yeah. I mean, it's a good list. It's a
It's just a
different list
stat check, right?
than what we've played, but yeah, it's a lot of invul at toughness 9 because the strikes and toughness 8 with the track stalkers. It's like, okay, I've got six models here with a 4-up invul that you're going to need to try and kill. And if you go for the stalkers, hopefully the Doomsdays will kill you back. If you go for the Doomsdays, then the stalkers will just sit there and score me some points. So it's a good way of playing. And if you come up against an army that just has all the anti-tank in the world, maybe all the Devons in the world, then you're going to die pretty quickly because you haven't got like a massive units that will make their weapons bad. Like 20 warriors, and all of a sudden the anti-tank army cries. But if you don't,
I was just having a look, and it's got 104 wounds of 4-up invul in that list.
Nice.
So it just is absolute agony for your opponent to cut through.
Yeah, especially if you don't kill it, obviously we reanimate as well. One squad of Ophidians as well seems to be the common choice, I think, going forwards now.
Yeah, everybody's liking the Ophidians. I just can't get behind them.
Yeah, I mean, for 80 points, you keep your opponent screening. Is that worth it? Like they still.
If I have the 10 points, I go for a Scorpefs. I think obviously this guy didn't. This is exactly 2000, so I can obviously see not doing that.
He's got the demanding leader on a hex mark, and there's literally Silent King and 3 Doomsday Arcs are the only real target for them. So that could have been cut for a third squad, for a squad of Scorpex instead of the Ophidians. But I mean, do you need the mobility when you've got 3 Triarch Stalkers, Tomb Blades, and Flayed Ones in the midboard early on? I'm not convinced that you necessarily do, and you don't need it to hold your home objective because that's what Imhotech's going to be doing. Or if you're playing against like an indirect army, like Guard or 3 Plague Burst Crawler tank, Death Guard, then maybe you stick a hex mark there instead, and Imhotech just goes off and does whatever he wants, I guess.
So yeah, that's all of the lists for over the last weekend. As you can see, there's a lot of different lists, a lot that kind of have the similar silhouette. It's like starshatter with 3 men under a big trench coat kind of thing. And those 3 men are usually the DDAs. And there's just a lot of cool different stuff. Definitely still more to be found. Like I do like the Immortals, like the people trying them anyway. I just like sticking to what I know because the destroyers do a lot of damage. But do you want to talk about the changes to the detachment, or would you like to talk about Meta Monday first?
I think we'll just go through Meta Monday first because we might as well, because all of these tournaments were running before the changes, we think, because of the date that they dropped was probably after the list submission for all of them.
LVO definitely was.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've done well.
Technically, last weekend and last week, Necrons were the number 1 faction with a massive 53% win rate.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you think about it, is crazy. Having the best army at 53% just shows how balanced this game might actually end up. But when you look at the numbers a bit closer, there was 1 Annihilation Legion that had a 60% win rate, but won all of its games, and we couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah,
no idea where they came from. Absolutely none.
It's won 5 games, but it's not X and O.
And it's not won an event. Got a 60% win rate.
How can it win 5 games?
Yeah.
Out of what? I don't know what the maths is, but is it out of 9 games? It won 5 games. It's got a 60% win rate. Like won 5, lost 4. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. So if it's 5 wins, then there needs to have played 8.3 games for it to have a 60% win rate. So I don't know where that number's come from.
Yeah, I don't know. We tried to find it, and we literally can't find it anywhere.
Yeah,
so
no,
not sure if it
nice,
was a league or something.
because
It
I
could
would
have
have
been.
liked, I'd have liked to have spoken about an Annihilation Legion list that went 5-0.
Yeah,
But I mean, Starshatter is still our best and most popular detachment, but it's
yeah,
only
massively.
55%, and you can assume that percent is going to drop down given the changes as well. But then
Yeah,
when you compare that to the other detachments that have been doing really well, like Legion of Excess with a 63% win rate, you've got the Bridgehead Strike from the Guard at 65%, and yet we're the one that, and we got nerfed. So okay, maybe we'll see some changes coming soon. If you scroll down and have a look at the Dark Angels, they've got a lot of few number of people doing really well on very specific detachments. But
yeah,
then
they've got quite a lot of really good win rate because most people don't know what it does. I imagine for a lot of it.
and then the majority of people who play like Gladius and stuff, they just have an average win rate. So
Yeah, I don't understand why we got the hotfix nerf when we're not the most broken. We're good. It was strong. Don't get me wrong. I think a flat 6-inch move after your shot is too strong for the game, but I don't agree with how they changed some of the other stuff,
yeah,
and the fact that they decided that we needed to be hotfix nerfed, and stuff like Legion of Excess is really really good, and Bridgehead is really good.
yeah.
Um,
Especially with the new codex for Guard coming as well. I think a few of the codex changes to some of the units and the way they interact has actually made that even better with when and the timings of the orders they can do. And units that can get like 2 orders applied on them from different phases, but now they can do it when they come down from deep strike. I mean the flat 6 move was strong, but it didn't always save you anyway. Like sometimes you just had to be out in the open to get a line of sight, and there's nothing you can do. Now I think we'll just see if it's going to be utilised well. It'll be people literally sticking out a nose to then just get the line of sight that they want, and then they can just move whether they roll a 1 or a 6. But that's not changing the power of the strat because that's how a lot of people would try and play it anyway. The biggest changes are to the +1 swoon and -1 swoon becoming 2 CP, which I mean, a lot of those times those strats don't even get used.
Yeah, I don't agree that they should. I don't think they should have made the +1 to wound 2 CP because they already have to be on an objective.
And it's
And
only one activation. So if you look at the list that we've been doing, that we've been going through, it's like the Silent King. Okay, he gets +1 to wound, very nice. He's got 12 shots at strength 6, and then 4 nice big shots. But if you're looking at a Doomsday arc, do you really want to pop +1 to wound on that, knowing you could roll a 1 for the number of shots? It's like,
yeah, I think it was. I think it was too far. And then -1 to be wounded when the strength's higher than the toughness. There's like World Eaters have that with their new detachment. They've got it where it's just flat -1 to wound if they're. And I get it's not on DDAs and stuff, but it is for the whole turn still. But 2 CP for that
yeah,
being -1 to be wounded when there's stuff in the game that, like Bridgehead, for example, every time they get out of a transport, they get +1 to wound
or deep strike, they get +1 to
or deep
wound.
strike. So
Yeah,
why do we have to pay 2 CP for the privilege when it's on something that's on an objective? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I
I'm
mean,
completely fine with the the fallback and shoot being changed and the flat 6 move being changed, but I think that they just took it too far because 2 CP to get +1 to wound from one thing is just crazy to me.
the things that benefit the most from that are things like with a consistent number of shots, like the destroyers. So the 6 Lurks destroyers or the Amnitic destroyers, they're the ones where you're going to get a decent amount of shots that'll actually make a difference. And then units in melee, so flayed ones, Scorpion destroyers, even Ophidians, they were probably the units that benefited the most from that strat because they're the kind of things that will be looking to brawl on objectives. But yeah, 2 CP now it's not something I'm going to want to use a lot of. It may force me to use Lich Guard and an Overlord, because that is another unit that you might have looked at using, because 6-2-1 with +1 to wound is not bad. People are still running that in Phalanx, where they can get one unit of the enemy no matter where it is. So, but now you have to pay 1 CP plus use the Overlord's free strat. So yeah,
In the tech's definitely going to be in there a lot more often, I think.
Or you just don't use the strat and you just say, okay, I'll use the D6 reactive and hope that I don't have to roll more than a 2. And then you'll use it for the enhancements. It's still a strong detachment. It's still a strong detachment, but I'm still not convinced it's the best one.
No. I think Hypercrypt is the best still. The mobility of being able to get your stuff exactly where you need it and actually interact with your opponent's objectives is a lot nicer.
I mean, the game plan is different. You know, with Starshatter, sometimes you're going in there and you're looking at killing your opponent and then scoring the primary later, and the secondaries you're doing your best to score. But with Hyper, you know, if you build your list properly, you can score them secondaries a lot more consistent. Gives you a lot more scoreboard pressure that your opponent has to deal with, and then you don't have to be quite as killy. Like, I've been playing Starshatter and I've had good opponents go, right, well, you get +1 to hit if I'm on an objective. I'm just not going to stand on an objective. So with the units that you want to shoot, and the ones that are going to be objectives are going to be like lone ops or things that are hidden, which I can't shoot or don't want to shoot yet anyway. So why not play Hypercrypt, because I have the same amount of damage because I'm not getting my +1 to hit anyway. But then I can get better angles, I can get my units in better cohesion, I can gang up on one side of the board and then flip over to the other. So yeah, really, I think that's at the top of tables that the Hypercrypt is probably still going to be the best choice going forwards.
Yeah, I was practicing Hypercrypt for a little bit leading up to the ITT, which, in case you don't know, it's basically the biggest team tournament in the UK. I think it's run by UKTC, which are all the guys that do like London GT, Nottingham, and the first one is next week. Me and Andy are both going, whereas I'm playing for Glasshammer and Andy's playing for Stonehammer.
Yep.
And I was testing Hypercrypt because I didn't want to take Starshatter because everybody's going to be building for it. And Hypercrypt just lets you keep every game close, but it also wins some games. But so the reason that my name is Traitor and Matt and he's Loyal Andy is because I decided to go for Grey Knights instead. Because I'm familiar, you shake your head, but I'm familiar with Grey
It's a
Knights.
Necron podcast, man. It's a
Yeah,
Necron podcast.
and I'll still talk about Necrons and still play him, but my team like needed something because of the comp that we've got. We've gone for, and we've had a dropout as well, but we've sorted it now. We've got like Ironstorm Space Marines, and then we've got Eldar, which is kind of like Dan's speciality. We've got World Eaters and Chaos Knights, so we kind of like needed somebody just to keep some games closer and also kind of like smash certain pairings that Necrons can't.
Hmm.
And that's basically why I'm running it.
Yeah, I've played quite a few team tournaments, and I feel like Necrons is not the list to go out there and guarantee you a 20-0.
Yeah.
There will be some builds, and if you're playing an eight-man team, then you might be able to jimmy the pairings so that you get that ideal matchup. But it's we don't have like kind of Blood Angels, World Eaters, kind of in your face. If you're not prepared to deal with this army, you're just going to lose. We don't have those data sheets where we can just do that. So I think Necrons is a good teams list where you build a list that can play most things, and it will get you small wins. And it can get you big wins, obviously, but it won't. What it won't do is give you big losses, which is also really important in teams.
Yeah, the Hypercrypt kind of build I was going for was similar to what I was running a while ago, which is like monolith infantry, like DDAs, like
Yeah.
monolith for the tricks. You can still steal objectives with a 6-inch deep strike. You can still go a lot of places with a monolith. Like
Oh yeah.
it's not that easily screened out especially on UKTC boards where there's a lot of open field, and you can just take primary quite well. Toon blades, 6-inch deep strike and fire and fade.
Yeah.
I was going for that kind of build where it's not doing a load of damage. It's not designed to do that. It's just designed to keep the games close, but it can kill your opponent as well if they mess about.
I look at the monolith and I kind of, every time I put one monolith in, I always kind of go, well, I really want a second monolith. Because I love redundancy. If you look at a lot of the lists I build, I've always got two at least of everything that I want because of the role that they're there to do. So you lose one monolith where you can still build your army around the tricks a monolith can do because you've got another one. Or you can have something on one side and you can just be like, well, that can be on the other side of the table with the other monolith, or it can be on this side of the table with the other monolith. So you don't know, and your opponent doesn't know where it's going to go or how it's going to work. But then as soon as you've got two monoliths and the Silent King, obviously, because Silent King is so good, that's 1,200 points. and then you're like, well, I need the infantry that goes with the monolith. So that's like a Risen Tyrant Immortals, maybe an Overlord with Lich Guard, or Scorpet Destroyers. And then all of a sudden you go, well, that's like 1,800 points, and now I don't have anything to do anything else, like score or scream. So yeah, then I always struggle with that and end up ditching the monoliths and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, if I was running two monoliths, even when I was running one monolith, I wasn't running the Silent King because he's not really giving you that much. Because it's just more of a tricks with the monolith kind of army, denying, moving out, moving in, all that stuff. So it's a lot more a bit of a different build, but I feel like the more big stuff you want to get the Silent King just to make it consistent. The whole package is a lot.
No, but Obelisk.
Yeah, Obelisk, man. Obelisk is not even.
We'll do a tier list soon, and you can hear my arguments for this Obelisk because I keep talking about it. But I'm going to try and buy one tomorrow from a little war boot that we.
From the car boot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we went to a Warhammer car boot. It's amazing.
It is. You pick up a lot of good stuff, a lot of good deals.
Yeah, I've never been to one, so I'm excited to get some get some good stuff in.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got the rankings overall, the ITC rankings. Boom! Look at that. Look who's sat up there, number fucking 1, and then all the way down, and at least I don't have to scroll.
No.
I am number 15.
Number 15. So, yeah, the ITC International Tournament Circuit has ended with LVO. They do now into a new one, a whole new year. And I was lucky enough to finish number. No, don't do that. Oh, put it away. I was lucky enough to finish number 1, which was really nice. My first real year playing in tournaments. Happy days.
Yeah, you did well. You did really well. Yeah. You won a lot of super majors, where I was just coasting along at the small GTs. I think I don't really go to UKTC events very often, but when I do go, I do well. I just don't. I'm just not. I just like going to the ones I'm familiar with. Like I go to Battlefield Birmingham, which I really love. Best 40k tournament ever I've ever been to. It's just so sound. The prize support's amazing. Everyone is really nice, and there's like a team aspect to it where it's a singles event, but you and 3 other friends sign up as a team, and then you all earn scores, and then at the end, if your team scored the highest out of any other team, then you win extra prizes and stuff. So it is really good.
I did not know that. I might have to give it a go.
It's really good. Honestly, I fully recommend going to anyone. Battlefield Birmingham, it's really, really good tournament. It's been running for years. Glasshammer's won the team aspect every year, and the terrain is not UK. It's his own terrain as well, so it's actually good.
Glasshammer terrain.
No, it's his own terrain, his own design. It's kind of like there's like a plexiglass square, like quite a big one, and then there'll be like 2 triangle pieces of terrain, and there's like 4 of those in the middle, and then there's like some around the outside and stuff. And it was really good for Necrons because I'd have a vault and just drop it into the middle and see through all 4
Nice.
pieces of terrain, or the monolith would like sit on 2 of them and see through both. And it's very good for Titanic. It's a really good tournament though.
Cool. Yeah, I mean the UKTC tournaments, they're essentially the same tournament, just in a different location each time.
Yeah, that's why I don't really go that often. I go for like you see your friends kind of thing.
But you do see your friends because you make friends while you're there.
That's why I go.
And then it's quite often the same people that go. And okay, there might be like a bit of a north-south divide where, you know, people from the north don't go to every single one in the south because it is a bit of a trek, and vice versa. But one thing I've learned from this year is go to the big events. That's it. You know, you could go to all the small events and do really well as much as you want, but you only need to go to a few big events and just go 4-1 or maybe 5-0 if you're lucky, but don't get into the top cut. And you're going to get so many points from that you'll always rank high. So it's a bit of a weird way of doing the scoring because it just benefits people going to the bigger tournaments. Like LVO was 1,100 players. So there were people who came not even in the top 200 that scored more points than you'd get from winning like a 45, 50 player GT, which is still going to be difficult, especially in the Northwest where we're based, because there's quite a lot of good players. Like you can go to a GT and there might be 2 or 3, players of a really good caliber that anyone would look at and say, oh yeah, they can win that tournament quite easily. And then you're going to guarantee to meet them at the end because there'll only be 4 of you in the last round that could be undefeated, for example. Whereas you go to a big tournament and there's just a lot more people of loads of different skill levels, so you could actually get lucky, like you did at Nottingham, maybe, and play against just everybody and anybody that isn't like even going there to try and look at it and win. So.
Or you could get really unlucky and go 3-2 and never see those good players at the end.
Yeah.
We've both done well. What are you aspiring to do next year? For this year, I should say. Now that it's reset.
Well, this year, obviously, I want to keep my spot as number 1. You know,
that's fair.
Can't have a Necron podcast without somebody at number 1, right?
Yeah, we've sort of done it. I mean, I probably will be going to more of the big tournaments.
Absolutely.
All I try to do. Yes. All I try to do is get higher than I did last year. So last year I finished 20 something overall, maybe higher. Actually, I think it was like 20 something UK, and it was like 50 in the world for Necrons.
For Necrons, okay.
Yes, for Necrons, yeah. So, like, I'd like to get top 5. That would be nice.
Yeah.
I think I definitely can. I just got to go to these big tournaments, as you say. But I like to play. I play Grey Knights as well quite a lot. But I've got because I'm doing a lot more for teams now. I'm trying to just keep good at everything, so it's hard to fit that many tournaments.
Yeah, so if you want to go for like a high rank, then when you do the solo tournaments, you just have to try and look for the big ones. London, Nottingham, obviously, which you've done. Sheffield probably going to be pretty big as well. Manchester maybe. So it's like Manchester. 1 a month. If you do a teams tournament every 2 months, solo tournament every month, and fill it in with a few little RTTs and stuff, you can do quite well. LVO, I think, I wish I'd gone to LVO this year. I wish I could afford to have gone to LVO this year.
Yeah, me too.
I look at the people who finished above me in the overall rankings, and I think 9 of the 13 players all went to LVO. Now, obviously, some of them were already above me anyway, but all the people that overtook me were the ones that went to LVO and did average or better. Some of them did really well, obviously. One of them won. But if I'd gone, then maybe I could have stayed at the top 10 if I'd done okay. I don't know. But I'm certainly going to look at going next year.
Yeah, I've said that for the last 2 years, and I never have any money.
So, this podcast, if it picks off,
give us money.
Go fund me.
Send us to LVO.
Send us to LVO. We can.
But I'd like to go. There was a lot of drama this year with the way that some of the judges, I think, a lot of the judge calls I've heard a bit about. I won't go into it. You can find it all online, but that's the only thing that would like kind of stop me from wanting to go is if you just felt kind of scammed, or there's some of the players that were playing, there's like video evidence of them just playing sloppy or just being a dick. But I mean, it's not gonna. I'd like to go still. It's probably not even. I don't know how well I'd even do. Um, but it'd be cool just to see how soft the US meta really is. If it's as soft as they say, or if it's not. That's really it.
I mean, you look at it like London, where there was 870 something players. Maybe it's very similar. You get a big chunk of players who just want to go because of what it is. They have no aspirations. They don't care how they finish. They just want to go, have fun, spend time with their friends, and enjoy the whole um, circus of it, for example. Then you've got players at the other end who actually go in there to try and win and do really well. And then somewhere in the middle, you've got other people who they want to improve on last year's score, or they want to be, best in faction, or they want to be they want to get X and 1 or X and 2. And that's where sometimes you find the players that might be a little bit not nice to play, but I think they're the exception to the rule, right? The majority
it's not
of people.
often.
Majority of people that you play are all just amazing people, and nice to meet them and everything. So, and the same would be for LVO. Like, if I had to tell a person what their first tournament should be, it would be London. Like, you're going to meet
Like the
people.
biggest ones.
Yeah, because you're going to meet people in your exact situation. Whereas you go to a small GT, you might be literally the worst person there because you never played a tournament before, and you're just going to have a bad time potentially. So.
Yeah, make sure anyone that does start tournaments new, make sure that you just play all of your games. There's a lot of newer players that get really bummed out because that they've lost like all 3 games on the first day. Turn up for the second day and play, and because you won't get better unless you play. You're not going to go. You don't expect to go to your first ever tournament or one of your first ones and to win every game. Like just have fun. Like that's all you got to do.
Yeah. I remember my first tournament. I went with Ultramarines.
My first tournament,
I went 3
did.
and 0, came second.
Nice. There
Nice.
you go. My first
Yeah.
ever tournament was an RTT, and I went 1 and 2. And the only person I beat was Richard, and because we paired last round. And my Silent King passed nearly every 4-pin bun under the sun. This was 9th edition. Nearly every single 4-pin bun that he threw at me, and I was just like, and I just couldn't stop failing the saves, and he lost, and that was such a good tournament. And then I went to my first ever GT, which was Goonhammer, and went 4 and 2 because it was just that broken Necron thing where you just move on to an objective, do an action,
Yeah.
move on to another objective, do an action, and you just win.
Yeah. Scarabs and Tomb Blades, 3 squads of
Yeah,
each with OBSEC.
yeah.
And
OBSEC Scout.
it's
It was
that
disgusting.
it was a fun time to play.
Not against them.
No. I was loving it because I was playing double Doomside Silent King, double Chronomancer as well. So they were so good when they started on the board before the plane nerf, where they had to start in reserves. They'd get the full rerolls from the King, 5 up invul from the Chronomancer, and I'd get 3 turns of zigzagging them across the King to get full rerolls to hit against their targets, and they had some pretty good guns back then.
Did the King make stuff fight last back then? Like he had
Yeah.
fights first, and then he made stuff fights last,
Yeah,
or something like that.
no,
That was so good.
he basically said you fight last. The
Yeah.
Judiciary, though, at the time trumped him completely because he said you fight absolutely last. So I did have an argument once when I charged the Silent King with my Judiciary, and he went, right, okay, I'm fighting. I'm like, no, because the words of the rulings back then were a little bit more.
And it was really stupid because you had levels as well, right? You had
Yeah,
like
yeah,
both had fights first. One
yeah,
has fights first, one doesn't.
yeah,
One has fights last, one doesn't. One
yeah.
has fights first, one. It's so dumb.
It reminded me of Magic when they had one of the unsets with last strike instead of first strike. So basically, you fight last after everything else has fought. It was on a zombie. It was a very funny mechanic, but That was, just one card, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've done a lot of a better job with 10th edition now.
Yeah.
But for the faction overall, like, I think we're still in a good spot. I think we're still in a decent spot. There's a lot more to be found still with the new detachment. Hopefully, there isn't too many more unsuspected nerfs. I think Hypercrypt is still king. Definitely, like, the best way to run Necrons, in my opinion. I feel I would like to see changes to Annihilation Legion's stratagems where you can actually end in combat. Like, you should, if you can do a blood surge that has to make you end as close as possible to your opponent, you should be able to end in engagement range.
Yeah.
So I don't like that.
Especially if you're infantry, because it's the best mechanic to not being shot.
Yeah, why do we not get it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we are lucky that we do get some quality of life changes with the balance passes. A lot, like we had Immortals go down 5, the Plasmats go down 5, and a lot of people going, well, hang on, my army's had no changes for 6 months. Why are you getting nerfs but then a little bit of buff? So I don't think we can safely assume that we're ever going to get any changes to make Annihilation Legion better. They tried with the AP change, and it's not a very good change. It hasn't really improved it much.
It's essentially just pseudo ignores cover, right?
Yeah, but it's only against the closest eligible target, and then that's you 100 to what specifically you can shoot, and that can be manipulated by the opponent because they can just put something out there that, oh, look, I've got this tank, these 3 Gauss destroyers, I really want to shoot into your tank. Well, close eligible target is some, warriors or, things that you don't want to shoot. And we get nothing from it. So yeah, that change isn't going to come. Like, maybe if we get nerfed to the ground, we're the worst army for 2 quarters consistently, then potentially they'll have a look and change it. But I'm hoping that's not going to happen.
No, I think we're still good. I think we're still in a good spot.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably going to wrap us up.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, but I think we've pretty much covered everything we were going to cover today.
No, I think,
for the next episode, we're going to talk about how the ITT went, if we took any Necron heads. Andy's still not decided what he's even taken, so we're probably going to have a little chat. And then
no idea about that one.
We're going to do a tier list, I think, as well.
Yeah, we might do that. We might do that in between, actually.
Yeah, we're going to do a tier list at some time. Probably going to Hypercrypt or Canoptic Court, one of those two. Probably
maybe both.
Maybe both. Yeah, maybe both. Get the videos out there. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching again, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.